If I can just go to my seat. Where am And hello, welcome
I am
to
not.
the meeting of Online Presenters of Virtual Toastmasters Club. Our mission is we empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. I'm Sergeant at Arms, Dr. Sunny. To our guests, a warm welcome. We're thrilled by your interest in our club. Please note if you are interested in joining Online Presenters, you should be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International, have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches. However, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, we welcome you to apply for membership by demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by our club. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. As a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note we're recording this meeting. Your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. However, we are an opt-in club. Check the chat out in a short while and we will be able to make sure that we have your permission to use your likeness. And finally, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Now, please help me welcome to the virtual stage whoever is filling in for our President Joni, because I haven't seen dear Joni. Let's make sure. If it's not her, it is the VPE who needs to step in. Mr. Vice President of Education, aka TMOD, Toastmaster of the Day, please help me welcome Graham Cairns.
Thank you very much, Sonny. Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. Yes, the dread lurgy has claimed yet another victim. Joni cannot be here. By the way, those of you who don't know what the dread lurgy is, you're obviously not Goons fans. The dread lurgy was the disease which they mentioned, which is an unspecified disease, but which brings you down. And so Joni has the flu or COVID or a dread lurgy of some sort or another and cannot be here tonight. She is simply not well enough. So she's an apology. Also, by the way, Alison was a late apology. So on behalf of our president, let me put on my president's hat, which is actually a Vietnam hat, but that's not the point. Welcome, everybody. Welcome particularly to our visitors and guests here today. It is good to see so many members. I know that it is a national holiday in the United States, and so there will be some people who couldn't get here today. But I also know that because it was a holiday, some people could get here today that might not have been able to do otherwise. So thank you, everybody, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll take off the president's hat now and take over my role as Toastmaster of the day. Hello, everyone. My name is Graham Cairns, and I am your Toastmaster for the day. So I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of Online Presenters Toastmasters Club. Our meeting theme is Dare to Dream, obviously to mark Martin Luther King Jr. Day. What do you dare to dream? We'll consider that throughout the meeting. We'll also be checking out the word of the day, which is aspiration, but that'll come up with the grammarian. There are other people that I really should introduce to make sure that we know what we're doing. One is the timekeeper. Alison, can you please show us how you're going to be indicating times throughout this meeting?
Yes, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day, it would be my pleasure too. I will be timing all speaking segments to make sure that we stay in time and don't talk too much. At the given times, I will display green when you meet the minimum, yellow when you're halfway through, red, and if you go over time, Mrs. Oz will give you the mad look and tell you that you have went over time. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, timekeeper Ali. I actually do love that picture of Zaz. Zaz looks very much like my daughter's cat, Winks,
And
who is called.
she is sitting right, well, actually she is laying right here beside my mouse.
Uh, well, a cat next to your mouse makes perfect sense to me.
Oh,
All right, so let's take a look at some of the other roles that we have here today. We have an R counter and grammarian, and I don't know whether Andre agreed to take on both of those roles. I know he's taken on grammarian. Maybe he's going to do R counter. Maybe we'll just ignore that because I hate R counter. But can you tell us what you'll be doing as grammarian, Andre?
certainly, Graham. Thank you. Well, since you, for some reason, dislike Alcantara, then I don't think I want to do that Alcantara role. I focus on grammarian. My role for tonight, my fellow online presenters and guests, and they're quite simple. I will be looking out or trying to listen carefully for the use of English language, particularly good, outstanding, exquisite English language. And I will keep track of all those phrases that I find interesting, report back at the end of the night. At the same time, I'm going to introduce the word of the day mentioned by our Toastmaster of the evening. And the word of the day is aspiration. I'll put it in the chat in a minute, but the meaning is something that you hope to achieve. For example, I never had any political aspirations, or it's a story about the lives and aspirations of poor Irish immigrants. So I encourage you to use the word of the day appropriately and as many times as you like. I will keep a track of how many times it's been used and announce the winners at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Graham.
Excellent. Thank you, Andre. Now, one of the other roles that we have in this club, and it's a role that is really only used in a meeting like this where everybody is online, is the watcher. Carl Walsh, we're watching you. Tell us what you'll be doing.
Yes, the watcher obviously watches, and I make sure that everybody looks good, that they're framed properly. I think that's the most important part. But we also look at lighting and that they present a good image of themselves to the world online. Back to you.
Thank you, Carl. One of the things that I love about this club is the fact that people are so willing to contribute, not just in terms of speeches and evaluations and table topics, but background material as well. In the chat, in an average meeting, in most of our meetings, there will be perhaps half a dozen or more really useful hints, tips, PDFs presented on matters relating to leadership or to communication, and they're nearly always presented by Andrew, which makes it appropriate that Andrew is going to be our chat monitor today as well. So, Andrew, what else will you be doing?
I'll be the chat monitor today, which means that I'm going to be looking at seeing whether people are, first off, following the protocol, which means that you're not chatting while people are speaking. And secondly, looking at what kind of information you're putting in there, whether you're just saying congratulations for what you've done, giving compliments, or whether you're adding value to the time that you spend in chat.
Thank
I'll
you,
report back
Dr.
when you
Andrew.
call me at the end of the meeting.
I'll look forward to hearing your report a little later. We will, of course, be asking all of our ancillary role keepers to give us a report on how they've done for about a minute toward the end of the meeting. Somebody who will actually be contributing throughout the meeting as well as toward the end is our general evaluator, David Carr, but he is also the vote counter. David, are we going to be using your handy dandy tool to vote?
Yes, because I have to do everything in the techiest possible way. I will drop a link in the chat that you can click on to vote. And we do believe in voting here. There is no voter intimidation. There is no voter disenfranchisement. You are all encouraged to vote. Guests are encouraged to vote. Please vote because if you don't vote, then the vote counter winds up making stuff up, and you don't want that. You don't want that. We want an honest and sincere vote on behalf of best speaker, best table topic speaker, and best evaluator this evening.
And given that the voting machines are on your computer, I am not going to suggest that we seize them in any way because I can't get to your computer anyway. All right, thank you everybody for agreeing to take on those ancillary roles. Now, our guests, Sancha and Fred, you both know that you're likely to get picked on for table topics because the topics master will be Annie Martin. Annie, I'll get to you a little later in the meeting. You can explain how table topics works. But I'm pretty sure we all know. Anyway, so it is now time to move to the prepared presentation part of the meeting. Everybody here is a Toastmaster, but there could be some people who are watching the replay. So let me explain. In an ordinary Toastmasters meeting, there are normally three parts. There are prepared presentations where people present a speech normally of around 5 to 7 minutes, and they are designed to achieve a specific purpose. Then there is feedback, which is extremely important. In fact, I believe it's the most important part of Toastmasters, getting feedback. So we have evaluations. They're not judgments, they're not criticisms, they are evaluations, ways to improve our communication skills. And then there is the impromptu speaking, which will be the table topics, which Annie will explain a little later. So let's begin with the prepared presentations. We have two prepared presentations today, and I am really, really pleased to see this because I think they both sound like they're going to be really, really well worth listening to. Our first speaker is Mufaza Rahman. Now, Mufaza is presenting from the Presentation Mastery Level 2. This is the Learning Your Style, Understanding Your Communication Style. Many of us have seen the Understanding Your Communication Style speech delivered in a variety of ways, but this one looks really, really interesting. It's called The Suitcase and the Lion. And I'll read the introduction as Mufaza sent it to me. So apparently, I'm the kid who thought swapping Himalayan tranquility for the Victorian chaos was a great idea. Because who doesn't dream of trading peace for drama? And yes, spoiler alert, it only took a coup and a soccer lesson to teach me that friendship beats power. Groundbreaking, huh? With The Suitcase and the Lion, please welcome Mufaza Rahman.
Hello, Toastmasters and our guests. Before I begin, I want you to imagine the moment when your entire life is about to change and you don't even know what's coming next. Now picture this, an 11-year-old boy standing alone in a tiny Himalayan village, cold wind slicing through the mountains, dust swirling like a warning around the pit. Beside him, a suitcase so enormous it looks like packed with 3 lions. Oh boy, that was me. Most kids dream about escaping homework for cartoons or cricket or soccer or football. But I dreamed escaping homework for something completely different, something unknown, and that spark lit my life. It didn't come from school, nor from the book, nor from the wise old sage in the mountain. It came from a creaky old hostel in Kuala Lumpur, the place bursting with laughter, stories, and the kind of chaos that makes child's imagination to explode. In that moment, something inside me roared. My aspiration was different. I wanted adventure. My parents stood in front of me like a stone. They thought I lost all the balls in the Himalayas, and they were not ready to give up their parenting or outsource their parenting to an unknown hostel that they never seen. And that wild spark is about to set the entire story in motion. Fast forward, that antique hostel in Kuala Lumpur, I saw laughing, chaos, and the backpacks all over. It was a chaos, kind of chaos that glorious, very different from that you find in an extraordinary life. Open fire, it's a goal that you feel none other than the goat sneezing in the mountain. I gathered my chaos and my own aspiration, and I declared, Mom and Dad, I am leaving for boarding school. And that was it. The boarding school was the Victorian Institute in Kuala Lumpur, founded in 1863. I was straight in the it's like modern day Harry Potter movie. Red bricks all over, magical ivy. Students are they're lost. And they're lost like levitating their textbooks. Yet I expected the prison food in the hostel. Guess what? I found butter chicken and naan. Isn't it amazing? And then I came across shaking hand one of my fellow student from Mumbai said, you Indians like butter chicken. I thought that was a compliment that I can have, but tell me, who doesn't like good food? And if it is butter chicken, no complaint. My roommates were so sarcastic. And that summer, I befriended a kid from Central Africa. We had kids, diplomat kids. We had kids that came from different countries. They're chasing extraordinary life. For me, I was an ordinary kid from the Himalayan who barely could speak English or even let alone Malay. And that summer, I came across a boy who changed my world. Mububu was 14. He was taller like Eiffel Tower at the age of 14 and twice as confident. The entire room lit. It felt like solar powered. One rainy day in the library, he leaned and said, "Man, you talk like a curious George." And then I was completely glued, and I was just glued to the next. We are inseparable. He taught me cricket. I introduced him to Archie's, Tarzan, the comic books. He taught me soccer, and we were all over the school. One night, the roof, under the sky of full stars, he said, "Friendship across the culture is the key of saving the world." And I did not know what does it mean. I was pretty young to know, thoughtful. Mupu's father was very well respected humanitarian leader in Burkina Faso. Until one night, the entire family of 11 was killed in a coup, and it was the only one, my friend Mububu, was left alone. The world fell apart. Then one night that changed that everything. I woke up in the dark, standing. I saw somebody standing next to me. I thought it was a ghost, or it was a government agent. And that changed. I was talking, where is Mabubu? That night, they took my friend away to protect him. These are the secret services that took him away. And he looked at me, said, thank you for being my friend. Just like that, he was gone, swallowed in the dark hallway. The wooden lion pressed in his chest. Then I looked back. I realized I was not running away from something. I was running into something, that unforgettable lion. Fellow Toastmasters, what dreams sits in your suitcase? What's waiting outside your comfort zone? Can you exchange your own version with that wooden lion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mahuza. Thank you very much. I'll leave your evaluator to make any further comments, but certainly a touching and inspiring story. And a reminder that things can change so quickly. All right, moving on to our second speaker today, and I just need to get to the right page. When words become a movement, inside I have a dream. Our next speaker is Dr. Sunny Fridge. Today, in honour of Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday, she will revisit a speech the world still listens to, I Have a Dream, not only because of what Dr. King said, but because of how he said it. This 5 to 7 minute speech is from the Presentation Mastery Path, Level 1, Speaking with Purpose, and she will take you inside Dr. King's iconic speech, highlighting how he used a timeless blueprint for speaking with purpose and power. Please help me welcome Dr. Sunny to the virtual stage with When Words Become a Movement.
Just for a moment, imagine the sounds of thousands of people. Then they're marching on Washington. They're holding their breath, listening for what it might sound like for hope on August 23rd, 1966. Today, on Dr. Martin Luther King Day, people all around the world will visit Dr. King's words because some speeches don't just live in history, they live in us. As a public speaking educator, I return to this speech often because when my students ask, what makes a speech unforgettable? Dr. King, to me, gives us one of the clearest masterclasses you'll ever hear. Credibility, logic, and emotion. Techniques also known as ethos, logos, and pathos, woven together like a beautiful tapestry. Today, I'll briefly highlight how he used ethos to earn trust, logos to make injustice undeniable, and pathos to paint a dream so vivid the world could see it. First, Dr. King would stand on moral ground and shared history because he began by anchoring himself in America's founding ideals. He referenced the Emancipation Proclamation and the promise of freedom. Even his opening signals were, in his opening, I know where we are and I know what this country claims to stand for. And that's what his introduction signaled. So let's just take a quick look. And
50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice.
Now, this was a way that he used ethos. He was saying, you can trust me because I'm grounded in truth, history, and principle. And then there is logos. He makes the argument impossible to ignore. He gets brilliant with logic using a metaphor everyone can understand, a promise and a debt. He explained that America wrote a promissory note of rights, yet failed to deliver. And he frames it in one or two unforgettable lines.
Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds.
Now that's logos, clear reasoning that turns injustice into something concrete. It isn't complicated. The math isn't adding up. And then pathos. Dr. King gives the world a picture to believe in. He does what great speakers do. He just doesn't state a goal. He creates imagery so powerful you can see the future.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
He got to the heart of the matter, the heart of the message. Throughout his speech, if you've ever listened to it, I have a dream, he repeats again and again, because repetition, when done right, isn't redundancy. It's reinforcement. And finally, when he crescendos into let freedom ring, he expands the dream across the landscape until a personal hope becomes a shared national, or rather, a shared national vision.
And when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Wow. So here's my invitation to all of us. Don't just admire the speech, but apply the method. This week, the next time you speak at work, in a meeting, in a Toastmasters role, choose one of these to strengthen intentionally. Ethos, open with why you care and what you stand on. Logos, give one clear reason, fact, or comparison that makes your point undeniable. And pathos, paint a picture, help us feel the stakes and see the outcome. Because persuasive speaking isn't about sounding perfect. It's about making people believe change is possible, especially when you have a dream. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Sonny, thank you very much for that. That was fabulous. Again, I'm not going to say too much because that's the role of the evaluator, but I thank you for that presentation in dissecting a masterclass. I have to say, I was 8 years old and on the other side of the world when Dr. King made that speech, and it still resonates with me to this day. Looking at the times, Muffazar, I'm sorry, I think you went a little over at 9 minutes one, so you're not eligible to be voted for the best speaker for today, which means I can announce without any fear of qualification that the best speaker of the day, congratulations, goes to Dr. Sunny Fridge. Yay! Well done, well done. Thank you for putting the timing up into the chat, by the way, David. That makes it easier for us all. So you don't need to vote this time, but you will need to vote for the table topic speaker. On the subject of which, it's time now to bring in table topics. And here she is, your table topics master for today, the one, the only. Don't swoon, she's only human, even if she is Australian. Here's Annie Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Always enjoy listening to you speak. It must be the accent, I reckon. Yes, I'm Table Topics Master, and as such, I'm leading the section of the meeting where we are speaking off the cuff. You never know who I'm going to choose. And in order to do that, I'm going to give you the question first so you can all sweat on it and hope you're not picked, and then I'll pick somebody. My first question is, what do you dream of? Carl.
I dream. Boy, that's a hard one. I dream of a time when, and I mean, this is recent. And I don't want to go into politics here, but recent times, unfortunately, take us there. I dream of a time when the world is safe, and I dream of a time when it's not my own country that is making the world dangerous, which is something I never dreamed would happen. That I dream of a time when I am not in the middle of the nightmare. It has come to a point where the world has turned upside down for those of us who have lived in a country that at one time aspired to be the shining city on the hill. And we no longer are. And it's happened very, very quickly. Not that we were ever perfect. We certainly weren't. Lots of mistakes, lots of flaws, lots of warts. But to become the predator, to become the pariah, to become the country that is oppressing and killing its own people, that was something that we never imagined. So what I dream is for that to all start going away. And I know some people may disagree with me, but that is my dream. Back to you.
Thank you, Carl. I so enjoyed that, and I so enjoyed the way you so carefully chose your words, every one of them filled with emotion, filled with the pathos, and not to mention your ethos and logos. I have another question. When you were younger, depending, who or what did you aspire to become? Fred.
Why did I know you were going to pick on me, Madam Topics Master? Well, before I moved to Florida and got exposed to the space shuttle, I had aspirations to be an astronaut. Obviously, that never happened, but I think it was because a lot of the science books I was reading in school that I told my parents I wanted to be an astronaut. Lo and behold, I think I let them down. But that was one of my aspirations to be an astronaut. And I don't know, maybe the Boy in the Plastic Bubble, if you've ever seen that movie, inspired me with John Travolta. He wore an astronaut suit when he played the person who had the disease where he couldn't go outside. So maybe that's what it was. And maybe it's kind of glad I'm not an astronaut because I heard now that they fly them without astronauts in the space shuttle. It's like a remote space shuttle. So that might be a good thing. Because also, the fate of astronauts is I actually saw the Challenger blow up the day it happened. We were in school, and I remember we saw it, and then we all ran back inside saying, "Did we just see what just happened?" So it may be a good aspiration, after all, per se, that I didn't become an astronaut. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Fred. And I have no doubt you're reaching for the stars in many other ways, even if you weren't an astronaut. If you knew someone who had aspirations to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you give them? Sancha, would you like to give that a go?
Thank you. The best advice I would give someone that aspired to be like me or same career as me, I would say you'll be scared, do it anyways. Everyone is scared. You just have to take the first step. Then when you get to the second step, you'll see that the first step wasn't so hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, fabulous. Well done, Sancha. As a guest, very brave. Great answer too. Thank you so much. If you were to obtain your ultimate dream on a particular day, what would the following day look like for you? Kai.
What would the following day look like? Oh, actually, back in the past, maybe 10, 15 years ago, if I were to achieve something that I really, really wanted, I would leap in joy, yelp in excitement, and that is really what I would do. But strangely, over the years, I realized that that burst of happiness doesn't stay for a long time. And that is kind of a realization. And because of this realization, I also realized that when we have disappointments, it will also not stay for a long time. So, Annie, to answer your question, I think I would lead life as normal, even if I achieve something really, really, beyond my expectations, because I think that is how I want to lead my life, and I think that would make me contented and happy for a long, long, long time. Back to you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Kai. You therefore indeed do sound like a very contented person. Must be why you are here with us. I probably will need to ask them, Madam Timer or Toastmaster of the Day, whether there is time for another question or not.
Probably time for two more if you wish.
Oh, great. Here we go. To Dream, The Impossible Dream, I won't sing it, but I could, is a classic song from Man of La Mancha. What is your understanding of that phrase? To dream the impossible dream. Jim.
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. That's a good question. I love that song, and I really wish I'd like to hear you sing it sometime. The Impossible Dream. To me, a possible dream is almost an oxymoron. If something is possible, then it's just either it's a goal or it's not a goal, but it's achievable. So it's no big deal about it. To me, the impossible dreams are the only ones that are worth striving for. It's the impossible dreams, the things that just cannot happen. You can't possibly see how it could come true. Those are the dreams that are worthwhile. Those are the dreams that are worth something. Dr. King's I Have a Dream, what he said was impossible in those days, back in the 60s in the South. It was impossible for it to happen. Now, it still hasn't come true yet, but we've made dramatic progress in the last 50 or so years. And so it was an impossible dream that is showing possibilities now, showing possibilities of coming true. And that applies to all great dreams. If it is an achievable dream, if it is a possible dream, if it's something that you would like to do, that's a wish or that's a goal. That's not really a dream. A dream is something that simply cannot come true, but you're not going to let that stop you from trying. You are going to seek to do the impossible. You are going to make your impossible dream come true. Impossible dreams are the only ones worth having. Madam Topics Master.
Well, thank you so much. What an interesting argument there, interesting logos. Woohoo. And my final question. Now, they say that the age of 7 is the age of reason for young children growing up. Not sure if that's true or not, but that's what's said. You can reason with them a bit better. So if there was one thing that you could do to inspire every 7-year-old in the whole world, what would you do? Andrew.
Oh, thank you very much, Madam Table Topics Master. You picked the right person to answer this question. Or hopefully, so was it me or it was Andrew?
I'm so sorry. It was actually Andrew Byrne because I figured as a chat monitor he wasn't going to say much. So,
oh no, then I focus on my duty being grammarian. I'll pass this.
yes, I'm going for, sorry, I should have given people their correct title. Dr. Andrew Byrne, DTM3, over to you. Sorry.
Annie, could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. They say that the age of 7 in children is the age of reason. So if you could inspire every 7-year-old in the whole world to do one thing, what would that be?
An excellent question. My answer is 7-year-olds are tremendously influenced by peer relationships. Mentorship is a great way of showing them how to do different things, be different things, and aspire to different things. Mentorship really has a chance, but there are other things that help them as well. Chess, for example, is very important, or potentially could be very important because of several things. One, it teaches them concentration. 2, it teaches them strategy. 3, it teaches them how to lose and not freak out or get upset or emotional about it. Applying those lessons of strategy and thinking through things, knowing the consequence, helps them in life. It helps prevent them from being influenced by their peers. So chess is an important aspect. Having them surrounded by the right mentors is another aspect. But those are best ways of influencing a 7-year-old to go where you want them to go, to develop their full potential. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And chess is a topic particularly close to my heart, and I will give a speech about it, but it also teaches you how to think way before you act. And when I was a young girl learning how to play chess, I was always told to sit on my hands. In other words, don't touch that piece until you've well and truly thought it through. That comes to the conclusion of my Table Topics questions. It is over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Table Topics Master Annie. Some fascinating questions there. I see that the times of all of the Table Topics presenters have gone into the chat. So we'll have a chance to vote for them when David gets his handy dandy vote thingy connection working, and he'll put the link into the chat. Keep an eye for it. When you see it, click on it, vote for the best Table Topics presenter. And I've got to say, I love some of those questions. I also have to say, I don't know whether it was Aristotle or Loyola,
Make it a habit. 7 minutes of Tai Chi every morning.
Who said, "Give me a child at 7 and I will show you the man." Now, the interesting thing about that is he saying, I can tell you what the man is going to be like by looking at a 7-year-old? Or is he saying, give me a 7-year-old and I can turn him into the man that he will become? Because they are completely different interpretations of that same maxim. The fact that we don't know who said it, probably says everything that needs to be said. There endeth the lesson. Let's move on now. We've had the formal presentations. We've had the table topics. Now it is time for, as I mentioned earlier, what I believe is the key to the Toastmasters experience, the evaluation, the feedback, the ways that we can move forward from this point. To present the evaluation session of the meeting, to be the effectively my equivalent as an evaluator as opposed to the Toastmaster, please allow me to introduce our general evaluator for today. Here he is, El Presidente Primo, David Carr.
Thank you, Graham. So the importance of evaluations is that members get immediate feedback on their performance. To take us through that, we have, first of all, Jim Barber giving his evaluation of Mafasur.
Thank
Jim.
you. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters. Officer, oh, I was so looking forward to this presentation, and you did not disappoint. The suitcase and the lion. There were so many things that I liked about this presentation. I don't have enough time to go into all of them, so let me just cut to the chase right now and list rapid fire the things that I liked. Starting with your introduction. That technically wasn't part of your speech, but that was a great introduction that you wrote. I loved that. It was very effective. It brought us right into the speech. That was terrific. You started strong and you kept on going strong. I loved your gestures as illustrated here. You were gesturing, you brought your hands up beside your face. That's so important, especially in the video environment. If you're not doing that, all we see is a picture of a talking head. You brought your hands up. We were able to, you could use them to convey what you were talking. Your gestures were congruent with what you were saying. They were a part of the presentation. I loved your gestures. I liked also that you looked at the camera, not at the screen. It is such a temptation to look at everybody else because that's what we're trained to do. And of course, that doesn't work in video. You need to look at the camera, and you did that wonderfully. I love your pace throughout your speech and your use of the dramatic pause. Whenever there was something important, you paused after you said it. Sometimes you paused before you said it, and then after you said it. Pausing is putting something in italics, but it's doing it vocally. And you do that wonderfully. You do that marvelously. I'm going to go back and study your presentation because I like the way you did that. Vocals, everything about your vocals, your power, your enunciation of words, they were great. Overall, you were conversational. You weren't speaking to us, you were holding a conversation with us. And that was just so effective. I have a couple of suggestions. They're both minor, but it's something to consider. The first one, I mentioned before that you looked at the camera, and that was great, except for when you didn't look at the camera. You did spend a fair amount of time looking down at your notes, and then you would come back up and you would look at the camera. Looking at the camera is terrific. Looking down isn't so good, especially when you're relating a story. Now, if you're quoting statistics or something, it's forgivable to look down at your notes, to go back up and talk to somebody. But when you're telling a story, you're supposed to be speaking from the heart. And so you don't need to look at your notes, technically speaking. And so you should establish eye contact with the camera. Now, it's unrealistic to expect you to memorize a speech to give one time at Toastmasters. You're not going to do that. But what you can do is take your notes and put them up beside the camera, kind of like this. it's not coming through, but put your notes up beside the camera so that you can actually look at your notes, look back at the camera, and it just looks like your eyes are moving slightly from one side to the other. And that works very, very nicely. So consider in some way, whether you use put it up by a Microsoft Word document of your script, or you just have it written on a sheet of paper, whatever you want to do, put it up there beside the camera, and that will work very nicely. The other thing, a very, very little tiny, but I loved your opening. That was great. Your closing was thank you. No, the closing is the most part that we're going to remember most. It is the aspiration. I got it in. It is the aspiration for what we're going to remember. And you closed with thank you. Nobody's going to say, oh, wow, what a great speech. He closed with thank you. I would have said instead, close with what dreams are in your suitcase. And then just give a dramatic pause for 2 seconds and then close. That's it. No thank you, it's none necessary. But those are two minor points in what was a terrific presentation, very moving, the power of friendship across cultures. I loved it. I'm looking forward to your next one. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim. We have one more evaluator evaluating one more speaker. We have Kai doing an evaluation today of Sunny's speech. Kai, you are on.
Well, Sunny, really well done. I must say, you're the aspiration speaker I want to be, and I actually feel a bit nervous trying to evaluate you. You did really, really well. I really love your presentation, very educational, and in fact, I learned a lot about egos, logos, and pathos, right? Very beautiful speech. So in terms of one, hand gestures, tone, I think that was perfectly done because your hand gestures, I remember when you said live with us, you actually made an appropriate hand gesture. You put your hand on your heart, at your heart area. That was good. And of course, you use a variety of hand gestures to make that speech a lot more emotional, and I can follow through the speech perfectly without falling asleep. So very, very good. In fact, I wanted to hear more. I hope that this speech could be a 10-minute speech. I could learn a little bit more about the 3 key themes. So really good. Second, I really want to applaud you for being really good at using technology. Well, why do I say that? You incorporated video into your speech, and I think that was effective because our human brain actually loves variety, so it gave us a bit of that variety. So we saw the speech, and then you continue to add on your points. So I think that was effective, and also the way you actually control the screen. I think that's also a major plus when it comes to online presentation, and I think you did that really well. Yes, so and there are of course many things that I really appreciate about this particular speech. One thing that I observed, and it is out of my own curiosity, it's very minor, is that I have never seen you using low pitch to speak. You have a beautiful voice, but it's just out of that personal curiosity. Wow, it will be so interesting. It will give that variety to your speech. If one day you suddenly lower your voice to that extent that we have never heard before, I think that would be very punchy. And if you want to drive a point across, that people would definitely listen because they follow you and they love what you're already saying. And when you place that emphasis with that low pitch and low soft voice, I think it'll be great. So that's just one thing that I observed and noticed because of that interaction that I have had with you for the past couple of months and through the speech. So just very, very minor point here. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing and do more presentations because I would like to learn more from you through this presentation. So good job, and back to you. Back to you, general evaluator.
All right. Thank you, Kai. Well done. And I will take a minute to be vote counter. First of all, timer, I believe both speakers are qualified, correct?
Yes, but both evaluators are qualified, Mr. Vote Counter.
All right. So I will drop that link into the chat and ask you to please vote. But thank you for those evaluations. Thank you for those speeches. Thank you for those table topics. Thank you for making this an excellent meeting today. As general evaluator, I get to give some overall feedback on the meeting. One of my observations is that, believe it or not, we are not perfect. Even at the stuff that we're supposed to be perfect at or very good at, that we've been practicing for years, which is the use of the technology in this format. And I'll pick on the timer a little bit, because we had an issue where I think the timer was not as visible as it could have been when Mafizur was giving a speech. Now, as a speaker, what I would tell you is don't expect it to be perfect. Don't expect that display of the timer to be perfect, because it is tricky in an online environment. It's an excellent idea to have your own timing device handy, at least when you're giving a formal speech, where you're watching for that 5 to 7 minutes to go by, and the official timer's lights might be an added bonus to that. When you're with table topics, I don't necessarily expect you to have that set up in advance, but when you're speaking, it is something you can do. Not that I ever do it, but I'm telling you that theoretically it would be a good idea to do it that way, to be that prepared. And for anybody who doesn't know, probably some of you don't know, the reason that timing is tricky in the Toastmasters environment is that in Zoom land, the little Hollywood squares switch around automatically every once in a while based on the last person who spoke. And there's two ways of trying to keep the timer more visible. One is that the timer can use the raise hand function, which I got Allison to do at one point. And it's not working right now, because as soon as you unmute and speak, the Zoom assumes that the raise hand function is no longer needed. And so it goes away. And so that's not perfect. There's another way of doing it where the meeting host can rearrange the squares and drag the timer over into the first square. But then if the meeting host gets distracted, very often the right thing isn't showing up on the screen anymore. You're preventing Zoom from doing its automatic shifting to whoever is speaking. And so that's not perfect. Ain't nothing perfect is basically my bottom line here. We just need to adapt and function as well as we can. And overall, I think we're doing a pretty good job. Let's see, I'm rattling on about my own observations about the meeting, but actually I'm supposed to, before I get to that, so maybe I'll come back to it in a minute. But before I get to that, I'm actually supposed to call on the other folks who've been keeping track of various aspects of our meeting. Let me start with our grammarian. And maybe in his spare time, he counted a few ahs, but mostly he was the grammarian this evening, Andrei Smolenko.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. My role for this evening was grammarian. I introduced the word of the day, aspiration, and asked the speakers and table topics participants to use this word appropriately. It's been used a number of times by Mafizur in his speech twice, Graham Carnes once, Fred, our guest, used it twice in his table topics. That was really impressive. Dr. Sani Fridge used it twice, and Jim Barber twice as well. And a number of other speakers were used it once or twice in different interpretations. It was a popular word of the day, aspiration. At the same time, I kept my eyes and ears open for the use, in my view, particularly interesting use of English grammar and language as well. For example, I'm impressed with our guest, Sancha, she managed to squeeze a phrase in her table topic speech, which was be scared by but do it anyway. Be scared by doing it anyway. That was great. It's also Jim Barber used, in my view, quite interesting phrase. The impossible dreams are worth striving for. The impossible dreams are worth striving for. At the same time, our speakers, Mahfazur, for example, said friendship across the cultures is going to save the world. Very, very true and powerful words. And Dr. Sani Fridge, I'd say with this phrase, in my personal favorites, is some speeches don't only live in history, they live in us. So those are my observations for this evening. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Fantastic. May we also hear from our watcher for the evening, Carl Walsh. Carl, what did you see this evening?
Okay, I need rights to share. It's not letting me.
Let's see. Let's make sure. Can we get that turned on for everybody?
There we go. I have it now.
Okay.
Right. So Kai, now you did correct this later, but for quite a while at the beginning of the meeting, you were cutting off the top of your head. And this was something that a lot of people did. We have that online presenter's background, but you're situated in a way that you cut off that online presenters. It's a good idea to, if you're going to have that, position yourself in a way that you're not cutting off the words. To me at least, it's a little bit of a distraction when people have words back there, but your head is in the way. So it's just a matter of positioning yourself so that you're not blocking that. Also, if you're going to be moving around during it, again, helpful if you're not getting that a partial head there. Just try to stay in frame as much as you can. Here we have, of course, Sunny, for much of the meeting, cutting off the top of your head, but we see down that Kai had corrected his situation very nicely. He was back in frame, so that was terrific. Now Sancha, very interesting what Sancha did. And a lot of people don't do that. In fact, most people don't do it. I'm not doing it. She's off to the side a bit. That's interesting framing. She's not just smack dab in the middle. And if you have something interesting in the free space there, that's really nice framing and something to think about doing. Not bad at all. So I actually rather like what Sancha did there. Something to think about. Something to consider. All right, now, Mafazor, I love what you did with your background. Unfortunately, you are hiding a little bit of your title, but the fact that you bothered to put your title and a graphic behind there, I thought that was great. Terrific, nice work there, and I was delighted to see that. Again, if you're going to do that, either position yourself a little bit better or make the title just a little bit smaller so that you're not blocking it. But I love the fact that you bothered to do that. Thank you so much for doing that. And again, Sunny, just a close up of what you were doing through much of the meeting. We don't want to cut off the top of your head, but I got to tell you, whoever you're teaching to in your instruction for speaking, they are very lucky people because you are terrific. You really are. And finally, I think the best positioned person through the whole meeting, you have it right there. Although the word up at the top, that could be just a little bit better. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Those are my comments on the watcher.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you, Carl. Can we also hear from our chat monitor? Dr. Andy Byrne stepped into that role.
Thank you very much, David. We all aspire to use our words effectively and well. In the chat, most people use their opportunity to vote, to congratulate those that had spoken at what a great job they had done, and looked at some other information that was posted in the chat, which included things like COT availability for people looking for COT opportunities, and other things like Grugu, colors of leadership, and other interesting pieces of information that add to the meeting, add to your informational source. Back to you.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. And I think that's about it. I will present some vote counting results, but maybe I'll pass it back to the Toastmaster of the day and let him call on me for that for a minute after I've had a chance to futz with it a little bit.
Certainly, I'll allow you a chance to put that all together. And thank you, by the way, for your observations about the meeting overall. That's something that we don't often do as general evaluator because quite often we're running out of time. But today, because we only had 2 speakers and no tip of the day, we actually had a little bit of flexibility there. So thank you. As Toastmaster, just a couple of things, a couple of observations that I would make. And one of them is there was some discussion after Jim's evaluation about how to use notes effectively so that you still maintain eye contact. And Jim mentioned either sticking notes up there with sticky notes, and I've seen that done. I tend to use the Microsoft Word, and I'm going to show you how I use that. Now, I have the text in Microsoft Word just in 2 paragraphs, and that is directly below the camera. So while I'm reading, when the slaves of Marcus Licinius Crassus came around just a few months ago, he'd been given the opportunity to buy insurance. Now, I'm reading my notes, but it looks like I'm looking at you. So that's one way that you can do it. As has also been mentioned, if you're just going to use dot points, then stick them on a post-it note and stick the post-it note right up next to the camera. Of course, you can go for a higher tech solution. You can actually buy teleprompters that work for home computers relatively inexpensively. Nah, I'd rather spend money on no. But yes, anyway, so that's one suggestion. One other thing that I did want to just remind you of, and that is of our next meeting, but we'll get to that at the end of the meeting because by now David has almost certainly put together the votes. So, Mr. General Evaluator and Vote Counter, how did we go with the votes today?
All right, let me do that. So our votes, our results for today for table topics. Ta-da! Carl Walsh. Welcome back, Carl. For best evaluator, Jim Barber. Actually, I didn't even have to change the slide from the last time I did this because Jim Barber was but Kai was a worthy contender as well today. So thank you, Kai, for your evaluation. And for speaker, Sonny Fridge. Those are the results.
Thank you, Vote Counter and General Evaluator David Carr. We are very close to end of time, so I'm going to declare the meeting officially closed, but I will leave the recording. No, actually, we'll stop the recording. Waiting for the